Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Red Friday. Hi, hello, and how the heck are you? It is a Friday afternoon, and we have a massive sports weekend coming your way here on 580 WIBW and our family of stations here at Alpha Media Topeka. And we're going to kick it off here with 580 Sports Talk. I am Dan Lucero, solo dolo this afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski calling Washburn men's basketball presently. They're getting underway at Municipal Auditorium, the regular season opener for the Ichabods, as today they take on, oh goodness, who do they play today? Sioux Falls. That's who they play today. They play Sioux Falls, I think. Let me double check that real fast so I don't have too much egg on my face. But that game's underway. It's over on our sister station, the home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. It is Sioux Falls. Slow start for the Bod men. They're down 10-2 in the early stages, but that's where Brendan's at. He's at Municipal Auditorium on the call of Washburn men's basketball. Spencer Dupuis is standing by in St. Cloud, Minnesota for Washburn women's basketball. Season opener for Laura Westling's crew. They take on Southwest Minnesota State today. We're going to have that game for you right here on 580 WIBW. We're going to send it to him just ahead of 4 o'clock. So what that means is we're short on time today here on 580 Sports Talk, and we look forward to making the most of it. I look forward to making the most of it with you here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. We are live on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. You can also watch us on Facebook at WIBW News. Only 1 hour today, but we're going to jam-pack it on this Red Friday with Chiefs football. The 8-0 Chiefs welcome the Denver Broncos to Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday. We'll give you the full preview, just like we always do. Keys to the game and predictions, big Chief picks. I have the picks from the guys. They left them with me, so we'll give our picks as well. Also, Matt Derrick will join me, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. We get Matt's insight on this week in Chiefs football and a look ahead to the matchup against the hated Donkeys on Sunday. Of course, that is a noon kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday. Pre-game coverage at 11 on the Chiefs Radio Network right here on 580 WIBW. So just 1 hour today, and again, hope you can be involved with the show in this hour. You can hit me up in the live chat feature on YouTube. If you are watching live on YouTube, again, the channel is 580 Sports Talk. Jump into the live chat. Hello to Vance and Clayton and Mark H. and everybody who's watching us on YouTube so far this afternoon. Leave a comment, interact with your fellow listeners, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can here in the next hour. The Top City Metal Supply text line, also open, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Again, just 1 hour of the program today. Then Washburn women's basketball. Spencer Dupuis, Mike Side, as the Ichabod women open their 24-25 campaign. Then at 6 o'clock, we'll start our coverage of high school football on this regional Friday night, week number 10, regional playoff action with the 580 Preps Coaches Club. This week, you'll hear from the two city head coaches whose teams are still alive in the postseason. Well, I guess just the one, because the other one will play in the pregame show of our featured game tonight. But you'll hear from Bill Arnold of Hayden, whose team is in action against Girard tonight. Then you'll hear from the two outlying Shawnee County head coaches, Derek Hamas of Rossville and Logan Pegram of Silver Lake. Then we've got a preview of one of the best games, not just in our area, but really anywhere tonight, a Class 2A regional, unbeaten Osage City taking on St. Mary's. And we'll hear from both of their head coaches, C.J. Marple of the Bears, Andrew Gantenbein of the Indians. So we will have a 580 Preps Coaches Club for you, then pregame coverage with myself and Greg Akagi at Don Pierce Field at Seaman Stadium as the Seaman Vikings host the Valley Center Hornets in the regional round of the 5A West playoff. That is our 580 Preps playoff football game of the week. So that is our jam-packed day and night of sports here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. And let's go ahead and jump right into it because, again, we got a long way to go, but a short time to get there in previewing the first meeting of two this season between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Clayton hits the nail on the head in the YouTube live chat. Says, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's so weird that the Chiefs are playing a noon game. It is exceptionally strange. Like the lighting at Arrowhead will be weird because it's not just a noon game. It's a fairly late season. It's a post daylight savings noon game. We have become so accustomed to the Chiefs playing at any time but noon at home. Typically their home games are big games, and their road games are pretty significant ones too. The Chiefs this year on their schedule, this is a noon game. 2 weeks from now, they go to Carolina. That is a noon game. And the Browns game on December 15th on the road, that is a noon game. The game against the Texans on Saturday, the subsequent Saturday, week 16, that is a noon game. Christmas Day is a noon game, but that's on the road at Pittsburgh. And then in all likelihood, the finale at Denver will probably end up in a late TV window. I can't imagine that game will be early, and I don't think they'll flex it to Saturday or prime time. I don't think we're headed in that direction quite yet with the importance of Denver versus Kansas City. But I say all that to say that's 2 noon games at Arrowhead this season. It used to be the default, and then the Chiefs got really, really good. And things have changed in that regard. So it is the undefeated Chiefs, the 5-4 Broncos on Sunday. The winning streak no longer intact. The Chiefs had that long winning streak against the Broncos, snapped last year when Patrick Mahomes threw those 4 picks. We had the flu, and they lost quite badly to the Broncos. I think it was 24-9. I'm trying to dig up that final score from last season. I think 24-9 was the final. The Chiefs, however, will hope to start a new streak because they had extended the streak. They had beaten the Broncos 2 weeks prior in that really ugly Thursday night game. So the streak sits now at 0. The streak is 1 for the Broncos. So the Chiefs trying to restart a streak over their longtime AFL-era rivals. Keys to the game. I've got a couple. Brendan left us a couple to gnaw on as well. So we've got like an expanded edition here of keys to the game. And my first key is that a third receiving option is going to have to emerge in this game. And that might seem like a wild thing to say because Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins combined for 22 receptions on Monday night against the Buccaneers. And those are 2 Hall of Famers. So any level of production they give you feels repeatable by dint of them being some of the best players on the field, like future Hall of Fame guys. You can build a passing game out of those 2 guys. And what you saw in the passing plays that did not go to one of those 2 gentlemen, their gravity as threats in the passing game opens other guys up. And against the Buccaneers, the beneficiary of that was Justin Watson, who caught 3 passes for 43 yards. Who's going to be the beneficiary of the gravity of Hopkins and of Kelce in this game? Because, number one, the Broncos have something that I don't think any other opponent of the Chiefs to date has, and that is a true shutdown number 1 cornerback in Patrick Surtain II. It's not a given that he'll travel with DeAndre Hopkins, but if I were Vance Joseph, I would lean pretty strongly in that direction to try and make sure I got that matchup as often as possible. Now, there are ways to counteract that. If you're the Chiefs, you can line Hopkins up in the slot where Jaquan McMillan, who's a very good player, does the majority of his work. You can put Hopkins in motion. You can get creative with how you use him. But there are going to be a lot of snaps where that's the matchup. And if the majority of Hopkins' snaps are against Surtain, I don't know that you can expect whatever it was last week for Hopkins, 8 for 86 in 2 scores. I don't know necessarily that it's going to be that again because I think Surtain is that good. And given that, there's going to have to be someone else who takes a step forward, makes some plays in the receiving game for the Chiefs. I would keep an eye on the running backs. I feel like in recent years, there have been opportunities for the Chiefs running backs in the receiving game. I'm remembering in particular, it was 2 years ago, that long 60-yard wheel out of the backfield that Jerick McKinnon caught on the run, that kind of one-handed catch. It wasn't a 60-yard throw. It was just a swing out to the wheel, and nobody was anywhere near McKinnon when he caught it. He scooted about 60 yards to the paint. I think it's going to be perhaps an opportunity for the running backs to be really involved, especially if Vance Joseph breaks the tendency of teams that play the Chiefs and dials up a bunch of blitzes in obvious passing situations against Mahomes. Generally, it's not the best idea. We passed along those stats on yesterday's show. There are 33 quarterbacks in the league that get blitzed more often than Patrick Mahomes. There are only 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. And just gives you an idea. There are backup quarterbacks that get blitzed more often than Mahomes does. Everybody in the league knows it's a bad idea. But that's how the Broncos create pressure. And I have to think they're coming to town with a pretty aggressive mindset because it served them well in their win in Denver last year. So if that's the case, and we're seeing some 5 and some 6-man pressures, this could be the weekend the screen game returns for the Chiefs. We haven't seen a ton of that early this year, but Samaje Perine is really capable in the screen game. Kareem Hunt's always been a capable receiver. I would look for the running backs. I have a feeling that they might be active in the passing game this week. My second key to Sunday's game for the Chiefs. It's cliche to use this as a key to the game. We try to avoid using this as a key to the game as much as possible because it's real simple, like meathead football. Like we try to give you some smart stuff, some thoughtful stuff. It doesn't take much thought to say, well, you can't turn the ball over. Don't lose the turnover battle. I think, though, it's especially worth pointing out going into this game against the Broncos because the Broncos do not put the ball at risk. They have been very good at minimizing risk with their rookie quarterback, Bo Nix. After he threw a couple of picks early in the season, he threw 2 in week 1 against the Seahawks. He's only thrown 4 since. He did throw 1 last week, but it bounced off of his receiver's hands. It was a quick out, and it probably should have been caught by little Jordan Humphrey. Bounced off his hands, ended up an interception. But the point I'm making is the Broncos aren't going to put the ball at risk. They're going to be, I don't want to say necessarily conservative, but they are not going to put Bo Nix in situations where he's having to thread the needle, right? I don't think there's going to be a lot of contested balls. He's going to try and find the guy who's in space. A lot of times that guy in space is a yard down the field if he's down the field at all. A lot of, instead of the horizontal, the vertical game rather, a lot of the horizontal passing game for the Broncos. You're going to see that. So if you're playing a team that's going to minimize risk and minimize turning the football over, you can't give them short fields and extra possessions. Live to fight another down. Throw the ball away. Don't put it on the floor. Just keep possession. If you don't turn the ball over against this Bronco team, you're going to make them have to drive the field. And by any metric you want to look at, the raw numbers and the advanced numbers, this is one of the worst offenses in the league. This is a bottom 10 offense in the National Football League by just about any measure you want to name. Make them go 70, 75, 80 yards every time they touch the ball. And if you do that, if you're able to force that for the Broncos, I don't know that they can really put up a big number on this Chiefs defense. A good tackling defense, a good defense on the perimeter. I would expect to hold the Broncos to a pretty low number if you're making them drive the field for the better part of the game. Brendan left us with a couple of nuggets to chew on as well. First thing, and we talked about this yesterday, you got to stop the run because the Broncos have been an effective rushing team this year. That's the strength of their offense, is the running game. And in the first half of this season, they've run the ball 28 times per game. And now some of that in recent weeks has been Bo Nix. For me, that's the guy you don't want to beat you on the ground. My big Chief pick for the week, spoiler alert, usually we get to these in the next segment, but I'll just give him mine right now. It's Leo Chenal. And the reason it's Leo Chenal is because I think he's going to have a role in this game, and his role is going to be do not let Bo Nix get outside the pocket. A lot of delayed blitzes, a lot of spy, whatever you want to call it. I think Leo Chenal's role in this game is going to be keeping Bo Nix from creating the splash plays on the ground that the Broncos are going to need, because they're not a super explosive passing offense. They're going to need some explosiveness and some success in the running game. And I don't like their chances of doing that against the Chiefs defense that basically hasn't let anybody do that this year. So I think if there's anything explosive to come for the Broncos offense, it's going to be Nix with his legs. And whether it's designed or not, I think that's going to have to be a part of the offense for Denver on Sunday. And Leo Chanel has shown that he can be a guy that can neutralize that. He did as good as anybody can do, or has done, with Lamar Jackson in the rushing game all the way back in week 1. Bo Nix is not Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's too insulting to say, and I don't think it's arguable either. So Chanel, for me, is a guy who's going to play a big role in this game and making sure that stopping the run isn't just this team can't run between the tackles, because nobody's been able to do that against the Chiefs all year, but also no broken plays, no splash plays in the quarterback scramble game. And every time Nix leaves the pocket, he's going to have to pick himself up and wonder why he made that life decision. That's going to be crucial to stopping the run. The other thing that Brendan identified as a key to this game is to test the Broncos deep and be willing to try the one-on-one ball down the field if you do get it in 5- and 6-man pressure. Last week, Patrick Mahomes took 4 sacks, and that's fairly uncommon for Mahomes to be sacked that often. And some of that is certainly a credit to Tampa Bay's defensive front. And Denver has a good defensive front. Zach Allen's played great football. Jonathan Cooper just earned himself a contract extension. Nick Bonito's sneaky good. John Franklin Myers is playing really good football. It's a good defensive front. They can win with 4. But Vance Joseph likes to blitz. So when you get in those scenarios where the heat comes, where it's 5- and 6-man pressure, can you hold up long enough? Because the sacks last week that Mahomes took were not necessarily a product of his line getting beat right away. They were more a product of Mahomes wanting something to develop down the field, looking for something to develop. I think that tendency is still very much in Mahomes and the Chiefs. They can't shy away from it. Not against a good front four, not against a couple of solid cornerbacks. Well, Surtain's more than solid, but Riley Moss is having a good year on the other side. McMillan, as I mentioned, the slot guy, is a good one too. Don't be shy about those one-on-ones down the field. Get Worthy over the top. Let him run by somebody. Throw it up to D-Hop one-on-one. He's a ball winner. We saw that last week against Tampa Bay. Let him go win a one-on-one down the field and try and take the lid off of this Broncos defense, because they're hard to drive the field on. And you're going to need, if you're the Chiefs offense, some splash plays if you want to be successful over the course of 60 minutes. Those are my keys to the game. Love to hear yours. Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. You can also leave your comments if you're watching on the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, in the live chat. We'll take a first break here. When we come back, our predictions and our big Chief picks for this upcoming week number 10 matchup between the Chiefs and the Broncos. Matt Derrick will join me in about 10 minutes or so as well. It is an abbreviated edition of 580 Sports Talk, and it's just underway here on 580 WIBW. 328 on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started, but also halfway done. We've only got an hour today, giving way for Washburn women's basketball on 580 WIBW. The men in action right now over on Country 106.9. They are rolling right now after a slow start, leading Sioux Falls 32-16 out at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City. Brendan Wrzinski has the call again over on our home for the Ichabods, our sister station, Country 106.9. Keys to the game, Tyler, keeping it simple in the YouTube live chat. Just keep doing what they've been doing, referring to the Chiefs. Just keep winning. Yeah, they've won in so many different kinds of ways that it's hard to say each week, well, they have to do this and they'll win. Like, they have to win the turnover battle. They've won games where they were -3 in the turnover battle. They have to be good in the red zone. They've won games where they weren't good in the red zone. Mahomes has to be awesome. They've won games where he has decidedly not been awesome. They just keep finding ways to have more points than the other team at the end of the game. All three of us here on 580 Sports Talk, that's Brendan and Spencer, who are not here, obviously, with the Washburn basketball teams. But all three of us think they're going to keep on winning, and we'll move to 9-0. All of us are taking the Chiefs this week. I'm the only one betting the Broncos to cover. The spread right now at Prairie Band Casino and Resort, Prairie Band Sportsbook up in Mayetta, is 7.5. I think the Broncos get a garbage time TD and get in under that number. I've got the Chiefs winning 24-17. Leo Chanel's my big chief. He's the one keeping Bo Nix in check, making sure that Nix doesn't extend drives on 3rd and longs or create splash plays in the running game where I don't expect the Broncos running backs to be able to create them, because no running backs have been able to create them against the Chiefs defense all season. So Leo Chanel's my big chief. That total is just under, by the way, Prairie Band Sportsbook's over-under of 41.5. We're all on the under, as it turns out. Brendan's got the Chiefs by 10, 23-13. His big chief is Nick Bolton. And that's a nod to his belief that stopping the run is going to be the most important part of this game. So him and I have a same school of thought, each naming a Chiefs running back as our big chief. Spencer is the most bullish on the Chiefs. He's got them 27-14 winners and Kareem Hunt as his big chief. Game like that, I would expect Hunt probably touches the ball 20-plus times. And I said earlier, I think the running backs are going to have a piece of the passing game this week. I think that you're going to see some. I'll go ahead and make the bold prediction. They're going to pop a big play, at least one, in the screen game against this aggressive Bronco defense. Speaking of picks, we don't have the time to do it today, but every week we have our Prairie Band Sportsbook 580 Sports Talk picks contest. Those picks are all up on our website right now, 580WIBW.com. You can swing by, check those out, see which bets we like this week. None of us right now have a winning record after I crapped the bed last week, went 1-4. But my record of 23-24-1 is still the best of the group. Spencer is a game behind me, and Brendan is a game and a half behind Spencer. So I can pass along our locks of the week. My lock of the week, Texas Tech +4 at home against Colorado. I think that'll be a tight game. Every Texas Tech game is. And I think they can play within a field goal. And honestly, in Lubbock, with that big noon Saturday stage, I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Raiders beat the Buffaloes. Wrong Colorado team. You understand my confusion. Brendan's lock of the week. He likes the Lions on Sunday Night Football, laying 3.5 at Houston against the Texans. And you will never believe this, folks. Spencer Dupuis is on the total in the Commanders game. I know, right? That's a shock. He's never done that. But he is on the over for Commanders Steelers. He over 45 is his lock of the week. For the rest of our picks, go to 580WIBW.com. Step aside for a break. We'll come back with Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com, as we roll along on this Red Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We go to Kansas City to chat with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Friday at this time. Again, you can read Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com. Find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. And Matt, the Chiefs are coming off of an overtime victory over the Buccaneers on Friday. We joked about this a little bit when we had Mitch Holthus on yesterday, that the Buccaneers deciding not to go for the 2-point conversion felt akin to turning your back on Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger. How certain were you when the Buccaneers decided to kick that extra point and the game went to overtime that the Buccaneers were never going to see that football again?
Well, I mean, 50-50. I mean, if they lose the coin toss, they're definitely not seeing that football again. But honestly, I mean, I didn't even know if they were going to meet overtime. I mean, I just thought that with 27 seconds left and 3 timeouts, that's way too much time to leave Patrick Mahomes. And and there was some peculiar play calling there at the end. I mean, I thought that they could have probably tried to make more of an effort to just get into field goal range, but who are we to question Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes? But it didn't quite work out the way that they wanted. But that Baker Mayfield, once the coin flip came out, he knew he wasn't getting the ball back.
Right. Yeah, that was one guy absolutely certain he wasn't going to see the football again. Talk about the positives and the negatives from that 30-24 overtime victory. First, the positive stuff. We've seen now what it looks like with DeAndre Hopkins in this offense. And, we know what Hopkins thinks of it. He tweeted that picture of Randy Moss and Tom Brady. And it seems like the illusion is that he is a veteran receiver reborn with an all-time great quarterback. What impressed you the most about Hopkins' game on Monday night?
I mean, to me, it's just watching a Hall of Famer at this point in his career with all of the knowledge and experience that he has. I mean, had the opportunity to watch Tyreek Hill, who I also think is a future Hall of Famer, but at a different stage. I mean, that was, he was still learning things. He was still, a speed guy. I mean, it was just a lot of what he was doing was just outrunning people. DeAndre, you see him outthinking people. This guy is just like Travis Kelce in the sense that they have both seen just about everything. And what amazes me is just how much that they both think the same and they both think like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, 2 games in, the only way that DeAndre Hopkins has a game like that is just if he's outsmarting the defenses and because, he doesn't have the entire playbook down. He's got a lot of it because he's obviously a very smart guy. But, to have the same kind of feel for defenses and for coverages and for zones that Mahomes has, that's just a absolutely unique quality. And I don't think it's anything about them getting on the same page. I think that they just are on the same page naturally.
The negative, perhaps, is that the Buccaneers appeared to have success in the passing game by simply avoiding Trent McDuffie and just throwing to anybody else being covered by a cornerback that was not Trent McDuffie. Joshua Williams has played well in the NFL in the past, but seems to be struggling a little bit since his role increased with the loss of Jalen Watson. Steve Spagnuolo stood by his guy during his press conference this week. What are you seeing with Williams right now? What has to get better for him?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say for sure because, really through his first 2 seasons for the most part, and this was true of Jalen Watson as well, the Chiefs really used matchups with them. I mean, they put them in when they thought that they had the most favorable matchups and there was just good spots for them. And both those players this year, are now being asked to, do more than that, to be in there every single down and not just when there's a receiver that they think that you skill set wise match up against or that there's a scheme that week that you fit well for. And Jalen Watson was obviously ready for it. He was having a great season before the injury. I just don't think that I don't think Josh Williams has made that step yet. And that was one of the concerns that the Chiefs had even going back to the off season was, how much did they really know about these young guys and how they were going to perform when asked to play every single down and not just be in there in specific situations. And I think you're still seeing Josh Williams kind of grow through that. In a sense, it does still make sense because he was always the guy that had maybe the lower floor, but the highest ceiling of that Fab Five draft class because he came from a smaller school, a little bit younger, a lot of athleticism, but maybe just not the experience and top level experience. maybe he's still learning that, and he can still be a late bloomer. I don't think anybody's given up on Josh Williams yet, but I think that's why you're just seeing him struggle a little bit. Is just it's the platoon player getting an opportunity in a full-time role.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is our Chiefs insider, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's shift gears, look ahead to Bronco Week. Chiefs-Broncos Sunday afternoon, a noon kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium. And this Bronco defense has been one of the best in the NFL through the first half of the season. That is true. So is the fact that they gave up 41 points to the Ravens last week. Now, the Chiefs offense is not the Ravens offense, but what things can the Chiefs do, you think, to maybe put up a similar number or at least have similar success against that Bronco D?
Yeah, I can't imagine that Andy Heck and Kareem Hunt and that offensive line wasn't watching that game and thinking, there's some holes up the middle that you get behind Tooney, Creed, and Trey Smith, and you can just run behind for days. That the middle of that defense and that run defense kind of got exposed last week. There's some opportunities there. I don't think you have to be Derrick Henry to get those holes. I think you have to have an offensive line like the Chiefs have, and you have to have a punishing runner like Kareem Hunt to take advantage of it. So I think the Chiefs are well equipped to do that. And I mean, obviously, I don't think that even Lamar Jackson is a different skill set, but Patrick Mahomes is going to show that young secondary a few things or two. Patrick Surtain's obviously seen him before, but the rest of that defense, it's a revamped defense. There's probably a lot of guys on that defense that don't yet have an appreciation for what Patrick Mahomes brings to the game, and now on top of that, they got to deal with DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce. I mean, I think that's going to be a daunting challenge for this Broncos defense this week.
I suspect that this might be a week for the Chiefs running backs in the passing game. And maybe I just remember too fondly that 60-plus yard touchdown Jerick McKinnon had in Denver a couple of years back, coming free out of the backfield, Mahomes hitting him in stride on the run. But it feels like when you have the combination of an aggressive defense who likes to blitz, has one of the higher blitz rates in the league, and you have a defensive pairing of defensive backs in Patrick Surtain II and Riley Moss that have held up really well in man coverage this year. That to me suggests there might be some opportunities to get the screen game going, get Samaje Perine and Kareem Hunt loose in the screen game. Is that am I talking out of school, or do you think this is an opportunity for the gravity of Hopkins and Kelce to allow someone else to have a big day in the passing game too?
Well, you've absolutely hit on it, which is that, for teams as much attention as they're giving Travis Kelce, last week was noticed. You're going to have to pay attention to DeAndre Hopkins too. And when you do that, everybody else in the field is going to be open. I mean, Justin Watson took advantage of that. I mean, he absolutely did. A couple of opportunities when he was wide open. But I think you're right. I mean, the underneath can be absolutely open up when you've got so much attention on those two guys. And and the one thing the Broncos have going for them is, hey, Surtain, you could probably put on Hopkins and just let him, if you want to travel with him and try and take him out of the game and just worry about that one guy. But you're still, I think if you're the Broncos, you're still going to have to worry about double teaming Travis Kelce. And that means that there's going to be some open situations somewhere. And the Chiefs really haven't thrown the ball a lot to Kareem Hunt. Usually when there's been some passing situations, they've been putting Perine in there. But I think you're right. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to throw the ball to the running back more on first and second down. And you're right. I mean, there can even be opportunities just when there's a broken play. Hey, you got some running backs that can run for days against this Broncos defense.
Matt Derrick is our guest on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. He's our Chiefs insider, beat writer for ChiefsDigest.com here on 580 Sports Talk. As for the Broncos offense, it doesn't strike me as one that's particularly explosive, but what things do the Broncos have success with that the Chiefs are going to have to be on guard for on Sunday?
I mean, I've always, really thought a lot of Javonte Williams. He's had some big days against the Chiefs. I think you have to worry about that. And Bo Nix has some receivers. I mean, there's some guys that you thought, might end up on the trade block at some point, but the Broncos stuck with them, and now they end up having a pretty good receiving core. And Bo Nix is starting to develop some chemistry with them. I still think that if this game, hey, if the Broncos defense plays its game and is able to limit the Chiefs offense in some ways, I mean, I still think that this game is going to come down to Steve Spagnuolo versus Bo Nix. And, it almost doesn't matter what the Broncos offense wants to do. It's going to be, how does Nix handle it when Spagnuolo shows him something that he hasn't seen before? Is he able to avoid the turnovers and avoid the mistakes? Because when the Broncos have been winning, when they're playing winning football, it's because Bo Nix has been a pretty good game manager. He's not throwing for a bunch of touchdowns, anything like that. But when he makes mistakes, when there's turnovers, when they just can't move the football because he's not hitting receivers, it's been when he's really gotten disrupted. And I think Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense can get him out of rhythm this week.
The stat that I saw earlier this week is that Spags, as the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, is or rookie quarterbacks against Spags in Kansas City are 1-11, with the only win being the regular season finale in 2020 when Justin Herbert played and none of the Chiefs starters did. Like that is staggering. Like, there are a lot of testaments to Spagnuolo's greatness, but his ability to flummox young quarterbacks is certainly high on that list.
Oh, he's the graduate class. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, he's one of those defensive coordinators that, even if you're not a rookie, I mean, even if you're, a second or a third year player, the quarterback, I don't think you've really arrived until you've been able to handle a Steve Spagnuolo defense. And you're right. I mean, what he has done to rookies in his time in Kansas City and even before is just absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, that's why I think that the biggest matchup this week is, to me, it's Bo Nix versus Steve Spagnuolo, because Spag is going to show Nix some things that he hasn't seen before, and it's how he handles that's going to, really go a long way. And hey, you know what? That's going to be maybe the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader for Bo Nix and Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, hey, Bo Nix isn't going to be a Jedi until he's able to beat Steve Spagnuolo.
All right, a couple more questions for Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. First, do the Chiefs win, and what shape does the game take if they do?
Yeah, I think that the Chiefs do win. I think that the better team across the board. At home, they've had the one home game in the last 42 days, so I think they're pretty anxious to get back out there. Or second, those are the third one I think they've had after last week. Kind of forget the Monday night game all of a sudden. So I think the home field advantage is a big deal in this one. But I just think the Chiefs are the better team, and defensively, that's where I think that they should absolutely have an advantage. Chiefs play same game week in and week out, Dan. So I'm going 27-17 Chiefs, and might be even a last late fourth quarter touchdown that makes it that close. So, but put me down for a 10-point game.
Last thing, Matt, I have been watching Chiefs-Broncos games for many, many years, most of my childhood from the other side or surrounded by the other side of this particular rivalry. You, of course, have been following the Chiefs forever. What is your favorite Chiefs-Broncos memory?
Oh, I mean, the one I'll probably always remember will be the Monday Night Miracle.
Sure.
Joe Montana to Willie Davis. Just experience. I was in college at the time, watching it in my dorm room, and just at the University of Missouri, and just remembering, the moment that it happened, and just you could hear a crowd and just cheers break out over the entire campus. And there was the female dorm across the hall from our male dorm, across the kind of a little quad area there, and you could see even over in the women's dorm, everybody was jumping up and down and celebrating. I think everybody on campus was watching that game, and that touchdown. I mean, obviously that was a streak breaker in a lot of ways. So I'll never forget where I was and what was happening when I saw that play.
I have been to 2 Chiefs-Broncos games at Mile High Stadium in my life. One of them was the game, I think the Broncos won it, but it was the Dante Hall joystick touchdown game. He caught the pass in the flat, made like 2 moves, and 3 guys missed, and he just took off down the sideline. It's a vintage Dante Hall play, and I'll never forget, like, the home crowd was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. Like, man, got to recap on that one. Also, I was at the 7-3 game, the Tim Tebow versus Brady Quinn game in 2010. And I think that's the worst professional football game that's ever been played.
That's up there. And I was fortunate for one of my games at Mile High. I got to see the left-handed pass of DeMarcus Robinson.
That's a little better. So, that's a bit of a better memory.
That's another memory up there.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is our Chiefs insider. Matt, enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate you, Dan. Take care, my friend.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll take a break, come back, and wrap up 580 Sports Talk next. We'll keep it short for the final word. I think the Chiefs win. I think the Broncos cover 7.5 with a backdoor touchdown, but I think the Chiefs are going to make it really hard for the Broncos to score and do the thing that they've been doing. They're going to keep on winning and go to 9-0. Washburn women's basketball with Spencer Dupuis in St. Cloud, Minnesota is coming up next. Stay tuned. We got high school football following that tonight, Seaman and Valley Center. It's a big night of sports here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. We're back from Monday from 3 to 6. I'm Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk.